Have you ever wondered why history is filled not only with monsters, but with millions of ordinary people who helped them? Not sadists, not villains, but neighbors, parents, teachers, everyday men and women who nodded, stayed silent, and obeyed. It's easy to believe evil is done by evil people. But history whispers a darker truth. The real fuel of tyranny is cowardice. The silent, invisible kind. The kind that sits quietly in meetings, salutes when told, and looks away when conscience begins to stir. And maybe, just maybe, it's a kind we all carry inside. The German philosopher Hannah Arendt, reporting on the trial of Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann, expected to find a monster. Instead, she found something far more terrifying. A man who was shockingly ordinary, a pencil pusher, a bureaucrat, not driven by hatred but by obedience, by cowardice. She called it the banality of evil. Evil not as a demonic force, but as a quiet surrender to orders, to conformity, to the comfort of not resisting. When we look at genocide, corruption, even everyday injustice, we're tempted to ask, how could people let this happen? But the real question is, why do good people obey evil? Psychologists ran an experiment in the 1960s that still shocks us today. It was called the Milgram experiment. Volunteers were told to deliver electric shocks to a stranger whenever they gave a wrong answer to a question. The shocks weren't real, but the volunteers didn't know that. They believed they were torturing someone. And yet, 65% of participants followed orders all the way to the maximum voltage, 450 volts, despite the screams, despite their hesitation. Why? Because an authority figure in a white lab coat told them to continue. They weren't sadists. They were ordinary people, just like you, just like me. We like to imagine that we would resist, that if we lived under a dictator, we would be the brave ones, standing in the streets, raising our voices. But history suggests otherwise. Most people stay silent. Most people obey, not because they want evil to win, but because cowardice feels safer than courage. Because speaking out risks your job, your freedom, sometimes even your life. And so, silence becomes complicity. The system survives, and the machine of evil keeps turning. But cowardice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just invisible. It's the colleague who watches workplace bullying but says nothing. It's the citizen who sees corruption but shrugs, thinking, what can I do? It's the friend who hears a racist joke and laughs along because silence feels easier than confrontation. Small acts of cowardice, multiplied by millions, become the very soil in which injustice thrives. Evil doesn't need everyone to be cruel. It only needs enough people to be afraid. Here's the unsettling truth. Cowardice is not the absence of morality. It's morality abandoned at the very moment it's needed most. And the scariest part, cowardice disguises itself as reason. It whispers, be careful, stay safe. It's not your fight. Someone else will step up. But if everyone listens to that whisper, no one steps up at all. That's how good people obey evil, by telling themselves they aren't responsible. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote that the crowd is untruth. What he meant was this. In groups, people don't need to think for themselves. Responsibility dissolves. We hide inside the crowd, saying, it wasn't me, it was us. But when evil calls, the crowd's silence is exactly what gives it strength. Civilizations don't collapse only from the cruelty of tyrants. They collapse from the quiet obedience of ordinary people. Think of every empire that has fallen into corruption, every leader who rose to power on lies, every war fought on the backs of soldiers who didn't believe in it. None of it could have happened without the silent power of cowardice. Not with hatred, not with bloodlust, but with people simply looking away. And maybe that's the darkest truth of all. Evil doesn't conquer us through violence, it conquers us through obedience. So the next time you face a moment where your conscience whispers against your fear, ask yourself, am I obeying because it's right, or because I'm afraid? History is not only written by heroes and villains. It is written quietly by millions of ordinary choices to speak or stay silent, to resist or obey. The monsters of the past may be gone, but cowardice is still here. And in the end, the future may depend less on the cruelty of the few and more on the courage of the many. Because the greatest danger is not that evil people exist. The greatest danger is that good people, faced with evil, choose nothing at all.